Welcome to Primary Complete episode 011. In this episode, we welcome Chris Blanchard. Most people know Chris from his fire service business, NC Hydro. However, I assure you, he's much more than that. In our conversation, we discuss a few paradigm-shifting moments that Chris experienced, such as the near loss of his parents and the highs and lows of being a successful entrepreneur. Oh, and we also have some great discussion about fire trucks. For example, how technology is affecting the industry. And we also get Chris's opinion on the future of fire apparatus. If this is your first time listening, please like and subscribe. Tell your friends or anybody else who may enjoy or benefit from our conversations. Primary Complete welcomes our friend Chris Blanchard.
As you've seen in watching the other shows, there's no real rules.
Yeah, good, because I'm not a really rule follower for most stuff. So, That's why I told you when you said, is there anything that's off limits? I'm like, yeah, kind of like the naked news, man, nothing to hide.
Well, I mean, I don't know, in detail anything really about your past and all that, but some people just don't want to talk about stuff. Dave was one of those guys. He's got some stories that he just doesn't want to tell.
Yeah.
Well, I like to be respectful.
I get it. And like I told you today, there's a lot about my past that Nick knows, of course, but most people don't have any idea. I was talking about it the other day, and Blair was in there. And Blair was just looking at me like, wow, really? And I'm like, yeah. And she was kind of like, I never really knew that. I'm like, most people wouldn't know. Most people wouldn't know everything that's happened to get to where I am and what's happened and where, people that fall into that place like Nick and Stanley and all within that, everything that's happened in the last, since 93, since the year I graduated from high school. It's pretty crazy. But, yeah.
How about that? What was that Blair heard that she didn't know about?
So my parents in 93, I graduated in August, and my parents my dad flew his own airplane most of my life. And in 93, after I graduated, I had started college to go to school for commercial pilot. And the school I went to took 28 people, and I was number 28. Like, I barely didn't get in. My grades in high school were crappy, but my dad had a lot to do with it to kind of get me to that place. So we had a bad hurricane in the Outer Banks, and my dad and my mom and my aunt flew his plane to the Outer Banks, carried a bunch of food and supplies and a generator to some friends of theirs. And when they were leaving to come home, the engine in his airplane messed up and blew one of the cylinders off and covered the windshield with oil. They were probably 175 feet in the air. He was going to land on the beach, but the water from the beach and the sand dunes had met, so they couldn't. And so he said, well, we'll just try to make it to the end of the runway where the sand dunes are. Well, there was so much debris in the sand dunes, he told my mom, he said, if we land here or crash here, nobody will ever find us. So he made it to the end of the runway, about 100 foot off the ground, crashed his face, lost his eye. My aunt was in the front, crushed her face. My mom came over the back seat, crushed her shoulder. My dad, with his eye hanging out, he tells my mom, he says, I'm going to lift the window up. You're going to have to go get help. They couldn't get out. So as she's walking down the runway or half running, whatever, here comes ambulances and fire trucks. And he doesn't get this. He did afterwards. He's like, I don't understand where they came from. Well, my parents' neighbor is a forest ranger. They happened to be down there working, and he saw the entire thing, but didn't know who it was. So he had already called and said, here's what's going on, So he spent a little over a month in intensive care, and I withdrew from flight school to run his business, which I'd worked in the summers and things. And it's pretty hard for me to do that, being easy to help me get in it. So after a couple months and he came back to work, I stayed there, and he was like, "Are you going back to school?" And I'm like, "This is not a good time for me to do that. Maybe next year." And then I started thinking, I'm like, "Do I really want to fly other people around?" And I almost lost all my family in this,
Yeah.
So I didn't, and I worked for him. And then that's where it falls into the same thing with you. I just had a pretty big falling out. I felt robbed, I guess you could say, because I had plans and it didn't work out. And like I said, that plays on way on down the line about how everything kind of fell into place for where I am now. I worked for him. I left. I came home, went to school to be a pipe welder. I did that. Went to work at Murphy Farms, making hog feed because it was home. The pipe welding thing, you don't do that in your hometown. So I went to work at Murphy's in 96. In 96, he said, "What do you think about quitting doing that and coming back to work for me? But here, let's build a shop like the one that we had in Little Washington here in Rose Hill." And I'm like, "Absolutely, I'll give my 2 weeks notice today." So I did that, helped the guys build the building, cleared a lot, the whole 9-yard stuff, started working there. From 96 until 2004, that's what I did. And we did a lot of shutdown work. Worked in plants, worked in a big sink plant for almost 2 years. Came home very rarely during that point in time, doing a lot of pipe welding, things like that. And then in 2003, Nick and I were both on the fire department, and this guy that was doing our pump test, he would get us to go with him, and all he would do would be to write the stuff down. And we would do all the work. So
Right.
Nick and I were like, "Man, he's getting $300 and we're doing all the crap,
Yeah.
So we started talking and we were like, "Why don't we do that?" So the very first pump test class that they offered at a next fire school, both of us were in. So we went, we did that, and we started kind of getting into the pump testing thing, a little bit for our station, maybe some people that we'd asked. And around that same time, people were getting, we were getting hydros done at our station in Rose Hill, and they would come pick the bottles up, and they would
Pull that mic just a little bit closer to your face, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you.
they would come pick the bottles up, and they would be gone for 2 weeks. And so Nick and I were just talking about how people like small departments that only had maybe 6 or so air packs, how could they do without
For 2 weeks.
for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
So we were like, "Hey, wait a minute, maybe we could do that too." So we talked about it, and we were like, "Let's do it, but let's do it mobile, where we can go to the firehouse and we can do it, and the bottles never leave." So it took us about a year to get a license from the time we started planning and what we had to do to go through it. It's a federal license.
So you get a lot of DOT stuff.
Oh, yeah,
going with it,
a whole lot. We had to go to hazmat school in Stowe, Massachusetts. So Buckner doesn't fly well.
Correct.
At all. He doesn't rock in a rocking chair well. So we had to fly to Massachusetts. So my dad's like, "I think we should take Buckner and see how he does." So we get in the airplane, and he's sitting behind me, and we're flying, and my dad's like, "You okay back there?" And he said, "I'm good." He said, "Everything's good." He said, "You want to see your house?" Nick's like, "Sure." So he turns it sideways, wing up, wing down. Nick looks. Next thing I know, he's barfing in his bag in the back. and like, he's white as a ghost.
Yeah.
So I said, "Dude, we can't really drive to Massachusetts for this." I said, "What do you want to do?" He said, "I'll Dramamine for like a whole week." So he did, and he was basically Mr. T. He was out from the time we left to the time we got back. But we did that. We got our license. We started doing the work, and he and I started this whole business. And then he worked for the city of Kinston, and then it got to be where I was still working with my dad too. We were doing this kind of part-time. Well, it grew and grew and grew until I was pretty much not even at my job with my dad anymore. But my dad still paid me. Like, he wanted it to work.
Yeah.
So one day Nick and I were riding. He's like, "Man," he said, "this is getting to be a lot. One of us has to quit what we're doing. And it kind of makes more sense for you to do that than it does for me, because I'm only working 10 days a month." So that's what we did. And then it got to be more into truck maintenance kind of stuff. And his career had changed, and he had started working at the county, and you know, he kind of phased out of working, and then it was just me. And man, two best friends just clicked and had started something new, and that's kind of what happened. But so that happened in 2004 is when we started. I'd stopped working for my dad for after like maybe the first year. It was kind of on and off. Then I stopped working for him altogether, and he paid me for several years after that until I really got on my feet. And then 2007, let's see, March the 5th, 2007, my dad, myself, and my granddad were my granddad was really big about your last name, and our middle name is William, and so that has followed 5 generations to my son. And so my granddad was kind of my hero back then. So he died on March the 5th, 2007, from a head injury. Fell down inside his garage, got a bad aneurysm, never made it out of the hospital. So things kind of changed. You know, my granddad was kind of the king of the family type thing. And we made it kind of through that year. Then December the 4th, well, actually in the latter part of November, my dad fell at work one day and hit his head on a push cart, got a bad aneurysm. He stayed in intensive care in Greenville in the same room that my granddad was in, is where he started. And December the 4th, he died from same accident. So the funny part about this is my granddad was 88 when he died. My dad was 66 when he died, and when I turned 44, I was scared to death.
Yeah,
because I really thought, I said, you know, everyone before me has got to this point. This is going to be me. So that whole year, I kind of felt like I needed to wear a helmet. You know,
got your bubble.
Yeah. You know, working with my dad and having the same things you talked about with your dad happen, and then getting back to work with him and becoming best friends. I mean, we were best friends. We would fight like dogs on Friday, and Saturday morning I would get up, and the first person I wanted to call was him to see what he was doing Saturday.
Yeah.
You know? And he really pushed the business part of this. Like, he didn't want me to leave, but he really wanted me to do what I wanted to do, because I think he felt responsible that he was the reason I didn't follow through with what I had originally wanted to do when I got out of high school. And so after he died, I ran his business, my business, helped my mom as best I could, and, you know, helped my sister whatever I needed to do that my dad did before. She was married, but, you know, no matter how you are, you still need your dad.
Yeah.
I did that for about a year, and I almost had a nervous breakdown. Like, it was too much. I had a bad spending habit. I never did anything bad, but I mean, I bought new trucks, bought a place at the lake, bought my first, you know, big motorcycle. I just spent a lot of money on stuff that I thought made me happy, but it really wasn't what made me happy. By that time, I'd had a couple kids, Kinsley and Jace, 2003 and 2006. So they were, you know, really, really young, and took a toll on my marriage, and I just had to get out, you know, so I left it and stayed doing what I was doing, lived by myself, you know, and things kind of flowed along. Things got better. You know, that 2010 mark was kind of probably the worst year. Things started getting a little bit better. I had a lot of employees that I was really good friends with. I never had an employee that I did not do stuff with outside of work. I mean, we all partied together and did things as a family together, went to each other's kids' birthday parties kind of thing. You know, I never had that any other way. And it just was a lot. And I kind of needed a break from that because I was doing more truck maintenance work and they were doing more testing work. And so that testing thing kind of fizzled out and brought me to this. And then 2014, I met my wife now, like the absolute best year ever. You know, she has 4 children, so we have 6 together. They range from 12 to almost 19. It's a pretty crazy house, you know, at my house. They're all great. We get along. Our kids have known each other their whole life too, so that was pretty neat, you know. But definitely the best things ever happened to me. Changed a lot. You ask people that are my friends will tell you that totally different person since 2014. We got married in 2017 and moved. My whole life I wanted to live in my grandparents' house. Have a huge house with lots of bedrooms. You know, I never thought I'd ever fill them up. But just so happens that we got married and my aunt, you know, owned the house, and she was like, you should move in your grandma's house. And I'm like, wow. So we live in my grandma's house across from Nick's parents, and the rest is kind of history. Yeah. So lots of things happen, you know. It's just it's a crazy thing to get to where you are, but had a pretty crazy upbringing like that.
Yeah, as long as I've known you, I've never heard that story.
A lot of people have no idea.
Yeah, I've never heard that story.
A lot of people don't know that. Like I said, it's not something I don't want to talk about. It's pretty easy for me to tell people that story, but it's not a conversation starter. You know, you don't walk up and, hey, Steve, let me tell you this. Well,
it's important to understand that because it was almost a paradigm shifting moment for you because you went from pilot school to, you know, that being flipped on its head where you have to take responsibilities to run the family business, you know, and then just watching that progressing.
In 93, when that plane crash happened, had you flown yet?
Oh, yeah. So I flew with my dad a lot. Mm-hmm. I got my pilot's license after I was in flight school. I kept doing it to get a private pilot's license. So after flight school, I still did that in the meantime. When my dad died, it was like it was not fun anymore. You know, I just he had the airplane, I didn't. I didn't want it. You know, I had so much else going on that flying was not a big deal to me. Flying was something I did because of him. You know, I enjoyed doing it, but I did it because of him. The whole flight school thing, I wanted to do that, but I think I want to do it because of him, you know? And so I quit. I stopped. I didn't never, you know, renewed pilot's license. However, I did just tell my wife about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I'm like, I think that's something I want to do again. I'm at the point in my life where I would like to do it.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. I've been an adrenaline junkie forever.
Yeah,
like jumping out of airplanes, that kind of thing. I've enjoyed that. But that's something that I think I would really like to do, kind of, I don't know, kind of take you back type thing. You know, I work with my dad every day, and that's something that we shared together too. But I won't get to work with him anymore. I don't do the same thing that he did anymore. But that would be something that would be kind of cool, you know. Maybe.
Yeah, I like it, man. In 2007, I started flying.
Right.
And 2007, everybody knows the economy immediately
went to crap.
Yep. So I was able to keep it up through 08, and then by 09, we were starting to have to slow down. Then I got the job with the county. Yeah. So the day before my son was born, which was the day before the academy, I got in my last hour. I ran down to the airport. I knew life was going to change with this academy.
Yeah.
So I went down, and it was Air Wilmington. Ken had 2 172s.
Yeah.
They were ugly airplanes.
They still are.
Yeah. So I rented one, went and got me one more hour in, but that was the last time I was behind the stick. Yeah, I miss it. I know you got to. I'm glad to hear that you kind of wanting to do it again.
Oh, I do. I really do. I do, and I missed it then, and a buddy of mine had an ultralight, and so I got a fix when I needed a fix from that because I didn't have to have a license to fly, you know. And in all honesty, I don't really think that my wife has any wants to get in a private airplane. I'm sure my kids would dig it, but I don't think she does, so that would suffice for me. Like, my dad enjoyed – the reason my dad got into flying for fun, but he owned a business in Washington, North Carolina, so it's a 2-hour drive. So he just flew. He would fly out on Sunday night and fly home on Friday afternoon. And even though it's only 2 hours, he could move around as he wanted if he need to.
Yeah.
So I don't need it for what I do, and he enjoyed traveling. Like everywhere we went when I was growing up, that's how we got there. My sister and myself and my mom and dad, that's how we got there. We didn't drive very much. But I don't really care about that. You can't really pack up all 8 of my family in one.
Right.
Nothing that I could afford, but ultralight would be perfect for me. It would be fun to get up, just I like to look at stuff and the feeling of it and all. That would be pretty neat. But.
Well, you could take you, your wife, and maybe 2 of your favorite kids.
Yeah,
and then
the least favorite in case something happens. Yeah,
just leave the rest.
Yeah.
Like the oldest ones, you can leave them at the house because I know they're not your favorite by any means. By now.
Right. Yeah.
What was your first plane that you flew?
So my dad had a V-tail Bonanza, 4-place V-tail Bonanza, and I flew with him in that. And then him and a buddy of his got to where they were like used car dealers. They were buying airplanes and they were turning them around. And so at one time he had 4 or 5 airplanes, and we got to fly all of them.
Yeah.
And then of course I learned in a 150. And when they had the airplane crash, he had a little bit newer V-tail Bonanza. And a lot of people don't know this either, but when you crash an airplane, you immediately lose your license. Like they take them from you. So
even though it's no fault of your own, like he had an engine malfunction problem, right?
Gone. Until the NTSB comes and does their thing, your
so
licenses are gone.
Okay.
Well, being as he lost an eye, they weren't going to give him his license back. So he flew himself, the guy that did his medical examination, and instructor, which is all friends of his, to a hearing in Florida. He got his license back by them being there. So he got back in the whole thing. So he bought a straight-tailed 6-place Bonanza after that, and that's the last plane he had. He sold it not long before he died. He just kind of decided that, he enjoyed flying, but the family wasn't doing that kind of thing anymore. He didn't need one that big, and he just never got a chance to get back into it. It got expensive, too. It's not cheap to own an airplane.
No, every 100 hours you're doing the big maintenance.
That's it. It's a lot of money, which his circumvent to that was he went to A&P school so he could do his own deal. He was one step ahead. He had a thing where it could burn car gas, so he could pump his own car gas and burn it versus buying expensive avgas.
Yeah, airframe and power plant.
That's it. A&P.
Yeah.
And that was the thing about him too. Like if somebody else had to do something, he found a way to make it where he could do it, which is where I got that from.
Yeah.
Like I don't call people to work on my car or my house. I put hardwood floor down. I do whatever because if you want to do something, you'll learn how to do it. I might not want to put hardwood floor down, but I have done it.
Yeah.
So kind of got that from him, and led to this.
Did Pops keep the airplane there at Rose Hill International? Or,
No, Wallace got a little small airport. He kept it there, and then
grass runway, whole nine.
No, there's asphalt there, man. We're up in the world. And then Washington has an airport too, so he had a hangar there. So he kept it in both places, and worked out pretty good for him. So it's close.
I've got a question. Y'all two can both educate me because I don't understand it. But you said when he was going down or whatever, when he had his engine problem, that he was trying to pick where he was going because he wanted somebody to be able to find them wherever they were. Do the little aircraft not have to communicate with the tower the same way? Did he not have the ability to call and say that he was having a problem or whatever? Because just on the fire department side, we get calls to the airport. Alert 1s, alert 2s, alert 3s for craft having problem all the time. So is it just not something that the little craft have to do, or?
No, they do. But you have to remember, they were in a hurricane time. There was nobody at this little small airport they were at.
Okay.
So the nearest place away would have had no idea what was going on with him.
Okay.
Like zero idea.
It was just the worst situation ever.
Yeah, it was bad. It was in a bad spot at a very bad time. It was just a saving grace that somebody saw it. And he didn't find out till, a while later that it was our neighbor that was the one that that saw it and saw what was happening. And a lot of people ask me, like, if I've ever told that story to anybody, they say, well, I thought airplanes just glide. Well, they do until a certain point, and after that point, they're too heavy for the glide. It stalls out and it falls, which is what happened.
Right.
He got that to that point. To tell you how hard an airplane like that hits the ground at 100 feet, the front tire is a Goodyear tire, and it's got raised letters like on your truck does. The imprint of that raised letter was in the asphalt.
Wow.
When I got to go, and I went and helped get his airplane up and get it loaded on a trailer, and it was pretty crazy to see that.
Yeah, no kidding.
Pretty nutty
Wow.
thing.
The Bonanza you guys had, was that what Buckner flew in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Bonanza's a low wing, right?
Low wing airplane. Yep.
Yeah.
This one had a straight tail. The other one, the back of the tail was a V-shaped. And, but yeah, he did.
Yeah. If you're going to show
Only
somebody,
twice.
Yeah. If you're going to show somebody their house, a low wing airplane, you got to
Get way
bank
down.
that thing.
Yeah, get way down.
Yeah, to see
Yeah.
past it, like a 150 or 172.
You just look out the window.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, when me and all my buddies went to New York many years back, that's how that pilot, the commercial pilot, showed us New York City coming in. He dipped way down and then flew.
Yeah.
Terrified.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is it. This is where it all ends.
Yeah. This is the end of the road.
This is where it all ends.
So funny thing about Buckner is so we're on the way there, and like he is immediately out in 10 minutes of leaving. So my dad is like, "You checked on him?" I look back and he's asleep. So he wakes up. He's like, "Hey man," he said, "Where are we?" I'm like, "New York City. It's right there." He has no clue. Immediately I look back and he's like, he's back asleep again. So we wake him up the next time when we're landing, at Stowe to say, "Hey man, we're landing. I don't want you to think you're falling." He did perfect. But you got Mr. T. You got to knock him out before you can take him in an airplane.
He had problems riding backwards.
Couldn't do it.
Back before the forward facing rear seats.
Yeah.
He always had problems. Like he wanted to drive all the time. We were swapping back and forth, driving and riding backwards.
Yeah.
He was like, "I'll drive. I'll just drive. You just ride back there."
Yeah,
He's like, "I can't do it. I can't do it."
His truck in Kinston, he sat rear facing.
Yeah.
And he was like, there was one little window, and I had to look out that window to see where we were going. He can't rock in a rocking chair, man.
You're right. I've got some good
bad.
stories I can tell you about him. Sometimes we've had in the back of an ambulance.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'll tell you those off air.
I am sure.
Yeah.
I love Buckner.
He's a great dude.
Yeah, he
Great
is,
dude.
man. We have been, like I said, there's a 5-year difference in us, man, but we have literally been like buddies forever. I mean, we played at the pool together, or just crazy.
All right. So you talked about how you got into the businesses you're in now with the maintenance and stuff like that. For those who don't know you, we're talking about fire truck maintenance, right?
We're talking about fire truck
So you got out of testing SCBA bottles, aerial bottles, that kind of stuff, all the things we get our breathing air from, into fire truck maintenance. Kind of how has this journey been for you? It's been a lot of changes in the industry.
There's been a lot of changes in the industry. So when I first started Nick and I were doing pump tests. You do a pump test and there's a problem. Somebody has to fix that problem. Well, I kind of looked at it like, well, let's look and see what's wrong with it. And so that going on and on and on and on and on kind of got to the place to where you had to figure out what is happening to the truck you're working on. So my background before the pipe welding thing was hydraulics. That's what business my dad owned. We worked on a bunch of like big, heavy logging equipment things. And so pumps, that kind of stuff. And I don't know, just with a mechanical nature, we started fixing ball valves, and then that led to, okay, pump packings are leaking and we had to do that. And so one thing led to another, to where if you're working on one part of the truck, you got to work on all of it, or you have to tell the fire chief, well, I can only do this. You got to call somebody to do the other. You can't do that in this business. You got to do it all.
I imagine when you were starting in the departments that when you were getting your foot in the door, the departments that you were pump testing, there probably wasn't many pump tests that all you had to do was pump or test the truck. There was always something to fix.
Ball valves.
Yeah, always.
Nick and I replaced an awful lot of ball valves, and he's the ball valve monkey because he's short, so he could just throw him into pump house, and he was
pump monkey. Yeah.
But yeah, and it led to one thing after another, and until finally that at the point where Nick was gone, I was doing everything you could imagine except tires. So when people ask us, hey, what do you do on the truck? Everything but tires. We don't do tires. And a lot has changed. Technology in fire apparatus, just in the 17 years I've been doing it, has changed tremendously. I mean, from the time you guys have been here, you've seen things on the fire trucks that have changed. If nothing else for y'all, just the command zone stuff where you have a computer in the truck that tells you if the door's open or this and that, where used to you just had a light or a buzzer. It's so much farther ahead of that now. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge every day for people that do the same thing that we do, because there's not just electronics and computer stuff in the engine or the transmission. Now the entire truck is multiplexed, and something as simple as your air horns don't just run from the switch to the air horns. It runs through that multiplex system. So when something happens, you have to figure out where all that ties together, and it's a headache. Or it could be really easy. Sometimes you just go, you look on your command zone screen, it tells you what's wrong, bam, you figure out where to fix it. Other times it tells you what's wrong, but you have no idea how this brain and that brain are talking to each other. You got to figure that part of it out. And, it's changing. It's changing an awful, awful, awful lot.
Yeah, it seems like that kind of the metamorphosis of how it's all going is going from your truck pulling up with, wrenches and pliers and all kinds of good things like that, where your first thing you're popping out with now is a laptop. Or something to, plug in. But I guess it's just vehicle technology, right? I mean, it happening in my vehicle that I drive back and forth. And
it's happening in everything.
Right.
I can remember when cell phones really first got to be a big deal, the ones that you carried, not the bag phone. My dad was like, I'll never own one of those, I'm not going to be tied to anything. So he got a pager. I was like, you still got to call somebody.
Yeah.
He said, well, I can call when I want to, Didn't take long before he realized the power that was even in the first cell phones that you could only dial a phone number on. Like if he was alive today and saw an iPhone, it would blow him away, way more than in any computer he's ever owned. Everything's taken that step. And like I told you, they're trying to take the human element out of it where you can't make a mistake. If you know how to drag something or push a button, it's harder for you to make a mistake. The problem that I see with that, as being a firefighter way back a long time ago and learning how to pump a truck with a relief valve and not a pressure governor, have you heard of the SAM system? I think I was telling you about it at 18 one day?
Yeah, the firehouse the other day.
Yeah, so the SAM system is new. They're about to build the first truck in North Carolina with it. I can't remember who's getting it, but it's virtually just a screen on the pump panel. There's no levers.
Yeah.
No levers, no anything, just a screen. And you just drag. You click on something and drag it, and when you put the pump in pump gear, it automatically opens your tank to pump valve for you. You don't do that anymore. You drag it, but there's no backup levers. So you're taking the human element out of a person that understands firefighting stuff and understand, like engineers, the best engineers I know are on old trucks, and they can rock an old truck. Nick and I used to talk about that all the time. Nick is a hell of a pump operator, but Nick's really good at it because he understands how it works.
Right.
But when you put this in front of people, they understand how to play a game on a computer. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's just not for everybody. And I dislike that part of where it's going because I think it makes you complacent or even maybe to some extent a little bit lazy because you don't have to think. All you got to do is just drag something. But everything is going to that. Everything in the fire service. It would not surprise me if a fire truck drove itself to wherever a call it has in the next 10 years. Just
autonomous.
Yeah. Do you think is the SAM system, does that account for friction loss and all that, or does the operator still have to be able to do basic math?
No, that SAM system knows.
It
knows what's on your truck. So it knows your hose lays. It knows your everything. And you literally, if you want to charge discharge number 1 at 125 psi. You drag that little 125 psi dot over to discharge number 1. When you let it go, it charges discharge number 1. And it does it for you. It does all of the calculations and raising and lowering to keep it at that. You don't have to, if somebody shuts off, a discharge and you're left with extra pressure, it changes all of that for you. They even have it now where there's like an iPad screen, so the pump operator can leave the truck and still control it and do another job.
That's so wild.
Yeah. It is very wild.
I guess it's just different, but how, I'm sure Steve can attest to this as well, and I know you can, Jeremy, as well. But, part of the art of being an engineer and being a pump operator was the mechanics of how the pump is working.
Yes.
I've been to water school. There for a while, we were doing a lot of our own pumps maintenance
absolutely.
stuff in the county. But that understanding of how everything is working, when you pull this lever, what's happening, and so on. And you can hear the old school pump operators talk about, they can walk away from their truck because they're doing it all by ear.
Yeah.
If something different is happening, they can tell by the way the truck sounds. And it sounds to me almost like the way they're taking all that out is you're going to take some of the skill out of your operators to
Absolutely.
Well, a lot of the driver operator series, the new series that are coming out, they remove the pump operator maintenance stuff. All the old maintenance of the pumps, the lubes. I can't remember who was talking about it. Somebody was getting their instructor check off at Rocky Point the other day. And so all that stuff, I think it might have been the aerial series where all that maintenance stuff, even the ladder lubing is getting taken off.
It's gone.
Yeah.
What about the the service testing aspect? If you went through the pump series, technically you could go service test trucks.
That's it.
You could go pump test trucks anywhere.
I'm not
you were
exactly
certified
sure
to
about
do
the
it.
service testing,
So-
but yeah, definitely the pump maintenance stuff is getting.
Well, it seems
out of
like
the
if that
wayside.
part's leaving, then I can't imagine how they would
it's
say
gonna
you're
be
okay to service test.
That's it. It's a lot of that's going to be a thing of the past, which I kind of understand. So back in the day, could be 2000, could be whenever. But so my dad was a captain at Rose Hill a long, long, long time ago. They did everything on their truck. They changed the oil. They fixed any problems. They did all of that kind of stuff. That is, when I first started doing this job, pump test and certain amounts of maintenance were the only things that outsiders did that were not in the fire department. And then Nick and I both can remember this, the day that we got a phone call that a man asked us, did we test hose? And I was like, what?
What are y'all doing on Thursdays?
You don't do that? What's the deal? And so he told us, he said, we can't get people to come, and we're so busy doing other things that we don't have time to do it. And I looked at Nick and I'm like, I don't understand this. We do it ourselves.
Yeah.
So we did it. We went out and we got a bunch of people together and we went and tested their fire hose. And I started seeing that it was happening more and more and more and more and more, and I couldn't understand why. And it's the dynamics of the volunteer side has changed so much that it used to be a good buddy, go meet on one night a month or whatever, and you trained a little bit, or maybe you didn't, maybe you just sat around and ate, and to now you're training so much that you don't really have time to do, which we incorporate in Rose Hill, like the hose testing and even the ladder test. Like when I did it, or when Chicken Little did it, we incorporated that into a night that we were all there and people learned from what you were doing. But that's going away. People aren't doing anything themselves anymore because of time. There's more money now, even in volunteer departments with fire taxes and things, and so you don't see it. So that's a big open span for everybody to. That's how I got into business, is because of people not wanting to do things.
Yeah. Is anybody making a two-stage pump anymore?
Not much.
I think you still use them up north a little bit.
Yeah, I think New York still does, but that second stage is a pretty high-pressure stage, too, I think.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It seems like when I was in water school, they were talking about the only ones left is all up north.
Yeah, and pumps have changed a lot in the respect of having a two-stage pump. So now the same pump can pump 1,000 to 1,500 gallons a minute, and then the next one can do 1,500 to 2,000, and they only have to have two pumps. Where before you had several different ones for that to happen. Now, there's basically, like with water, there's just 2 standard pumps out there depending on what you're going to get.
Yeah, I think that technology with the 2 impeller eyes, opposing impeller eyes, but one where the veins come out, you can take it in from both sides versus one. That really changed the this CV. I hope nobody's listening from up there at that school. Oh, right. I can't even remember.
Money well spent.
Yeah, I can't even remember what the model number is, but basically when that technology changed where the impeller can take water in from both sides, and then it spins it through its discharges.
So a CMU pump.
That's it, CMU, and then
that's a multi-stage pump,
yep.
And then a CSU is a single stage.
That's
pump.
it. Yep, there we go.
We got on the right track.
That's it. So it's basically the single stage, and then the CMU, the multi-stage, kind of took over the aspect of the 2-stage pumps, right?
Yes, and so now they I'm not saying you can't still get a 2-stage pump, but you're not going to see a fire truck here with a 2-stage pump.
Right.
They're not going to do that anymore because you can get the best of both worlds out of one. But what they've changed is they've changed, instead of having 5 or 6 different pumps to make all that happen, there's basically 2, and those 2 can handle whichever of the 2 realms that you need the most.
Gotcha.
And basically there's 3, but 2 pump manufacturers. 2 pump manufacturers that most everybody uses. Doesn't matter what kind of truck you get, one of those 2 is going in it.
Is with the new pump and roll type apparatus that we have going out, is a truck manufacturer, do they have their own pump that does that as well now?
No, so Darley does a lot of pump and roll. They're PTO driven pumps
Yes.
instead of driven off the transmission.
Right.
You don't see that much on any engines. You will see it on a tanker, or you will see it on some bigger brush trucks. Like, around here, everybody's brush truck is military 5 tons or 2.5 tons. Some places they're buying international trucks like most people's smaller pumpers are, but it'll be a pump and roll type. Could be brush, could be combination between that and like a small rescue or something. I don't see that as much anymore. Or not anymore. I don't see that as much really with anybody around here.
What's the ones that Pierce has just recently rolled out with? I guess it's been a few years back now. 13s like that.
Puck.
Yeah, pucks. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a PTO driven.
But
pump.
that's a Pierce pump, right? That's not a.
Yeah,
okay.
That is Pierce's deal. That whole thing was designed. Puck is Pierce Ultimate Configuration,
Yes,
I
sir.
believe.
Yep.
Supposed to be easier for you as a fireman to work on. Raise the cab.
That is nice.
Pumps under there, kind of thing. It is. But the things that you can work on are not under there.
That's right.
They're still in the pump house.
Right.
And I'm a Pierce fan. Gonna tell you that right off the bat. When it first came out, I thought it was pump under cab. I didn't really know.
It made sense. It would make sense.
I just learned it wasn't pump under cab.
So I don't feel so bad either. Yeah. But yeah, it's Pierce Ultimate Configuration. And while it was a grand idea, I'm not sure it was the time. It is, if you have to work on the pump side of it, it is fantastic because it is literally out in the open. But all your ball valves, all the other stuff like that are still kind of in the pump house. They're a pain in the butt to get to. But I'm not telling you not to buy one because of it. I'm just saying that, they have their place.
Yeah, I thought it was the coolest thing when that truck came into the county and lift up the cab and you could crawl in there and stand on top of the impeller housing. I was like, this is a revolution.
Yeah.
I was amazed the first one I saw because that was different for me in this world. And I was thinking, oh my gracious, this is going to be the best thing in the world. Well, as far as the county's concerned, which really has the most of them that I work on, we never had to do any pump work on them. So it's a grand idea. Just we haven't needed it.
Yeah.
Right.
You probably won't see that much anymore. I mean, they're still there, but
even that new technology seems to be old technology now.
As long as you stay in the fire service and as long as I stay working in the fire service like this, it's going to change every year. It's so much changes every year. brakes used to be really simple. Now it's all tied into the electronic stuff, where it used to not be back then. Everything is tied together to one system, a brain. And while it sounds easy, and there are parts of that are easier to diagnose, it's still not as easy to me as old school stuff was, you know. I enjoy the old trucks that have relief valves on them and, you know, no electronics, a throttle that works off a linkage and not one that works off of a wire.
Yeah.
I like that. I swear I cut my teeth pumping a fire truck, you know, and I still tell Buckner and people every day that I feel more like a man knowing how to pump that than I do what they have now, that you can walk up to it and mash your button and it's doing it for you.
Right.
You know? But that's where things are going. That's what's going to be happening in the future for everybody here.
I kind of feel, I don't know, I feel kind of raw, I guess, towards, you know, just going off of your point and how fire departments seem to be kind of pushing out the things that we all used to do in the past, testing hose, testing ladders, and all that kind of stuff. And not only that, of the great benefit that the members get, even for paid staff, but the great benefit that the members get in the confidence in their equipment. There's nothing like seeing a ladder almost touch the ground. You know, there's nothing like it. You never have to worry about that ladder falling when it's still on the side of the building. But then, you know, it puts to me, it puts more of a burden on our officers and our administration, because now they have to try to find something to replace that stuff for us guys.
Right.
You know, that's education and training that has been in our industry for as long as it's ever been. So now we have to come up with new stuff to put in these blocks. And my hope is that it's helpful information to replace the things that we have, but, you know, I worry as well, because, I mean, that's a giant, in my upbringing, I mean, that was a giant educational part, you know, is understanding how all these things work. And, you know, I benefit that to made me what I am today and why I'm so rooted in old school. But,
well,
you know.
The one thing it does is like when you said about watching the ladder almost touch the ground, it makes you appreciate how that thing is made. And it doesn't make you think twice when you stand on it to walk up the side of a building.
Or a ditch bank, you know.
Or a ditch bank.
Yeah.
Same way with testing hose. If you have gone out on your truck at work and you tested that hose and you saw what was happening to it in that 5 minutes, it makes you appreciate using it more. And that is the downfall of taking it away. The reasons for taking it away are multifold. Time, manpower. You know, if you have 3 people on a shift, it's not say it's hard to test your LDH, but it's a lot more strenuous to test your LDH when you have 3 people. The other thing is the reason they're taking it out, and that's what I've seen, is liability. And that's been the biggest thing, even with volunteer departments, is liability. If a third party comes and tests it and something happens, it's not falling on the fire department anymore. It's falling on somebody else. Okay. It's not falling on an individual. You know, these guys are the ones that tested it in our station, and this is what happened. And all of a sudden, you know, somebody got hurt. I have done work for fire departments where a person got hurt testing hose bad. And after that, we're done. Somebody else is going to do it. We're not going to put ourselves in that situation again. And that's why I see people go into that. That's why I see people getting away from all of their tests is liability. Anything you do, test-wise, maintenance-wise, the same way falls with maintenance. If Joe Blow in your station says he knows how to put brakes on and he puts brakes on and you drive the truck down the road and it doesn't stop, falls back on him.
That's one of my least favorite things about civilization progressing is that there's got to be somebody to blame, or there's got to be the whole liability thing. You know, it's important. Like, we have to be liable for things that we do, but it has gone too far in so many industries, not just fire service.
It's in everything. Our society is gone to the point where there's no such thing as an accident anymore.
Yeah, no, it's
not an
fault.
accident. It's a fault.
Yeah, it worries me because I wonder. It almost seems like it takes the value away from somebody's word. You know, if I can tell you that I can do something,
absolutely.
You know, and then I falter on that, well, I mean, you get to make a judgment call on me based on the fact that I was bullshitting you or not. You know,
Right,
my word
right.
means something then. But if I can follow through on that, then you'll trust me for other things and other tasks. And when I speak, you know, you pay a little more attention than, you know, if I lied to you or whatever. But
It's not exactly the same thing, but I do tree work when I'm not at the fire department.
Right.
And our chainsaws, I get most frustrated with the one I climb with. It has a spark arrestor in the exhaust. It steals like half the horsepower, you know. So
You don't take them out?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just, everybody else does. I didn't know if it.
So far, I haven't started any fires up in the tree.
Right,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? But yeah, it kind of falls back to that same thing. Like, I guess somebody blamed a chainsaw for starting a fire, which was probably a lie in the beginning. But so they're like, all right, well, let's put this 40% horsepower robbing piece of shit in there. You know,
well, they
it's-
got that from the fire service. We're shotgun effect things. You know, we got a precision problem rather than singling out a problem where it could possibly single a person out. We'll just do this broad thing that encompasses all of it and ends up probably not being the best for anybody.
yeah.
Anyway, I need a refill.
Let's do it. Let's take a break.
So my granddad was a tree farmer, but they farmed other things too.
Yeah.
And so there was 3 families living off the farm, and it got to be where there was really not the money for 3 families to live off it. So one of my dad's flying buddies owned 3 businesses that sold logging equipment, not the tractors, but chainsaws, filters, oil, slings, just anything for loggers that they needed to go, what the things they picked up every day.
Yeah.
Like we sold a tractor trailer load of non-highway diesel every week
Yeah.
at this place. So he had a store in Little Washington and told my dad, he was like, it's not doing very well. Would you be interested in going and seeing if you can get it running? And if you can, if you want to buy it, then that'll give you something else to do. So he went, after a year, he was like, I want it. And so we started working on the hydraulic systems on the loggers' equipment. When they didn't want to take it back to the dealer, we were doing it there.
Like skidders and stuff.
Oh yeah, everything. And so we had that business in Washington for My dad left when I was, I'll say left, but he left when I was 12 or 13, which would have been 89-ish, 88, 89-ish, and moved up to Little Washington during the week and did that. And then in the summers, I would go and stay with him and work.
Yeah.
And then when I got out of high school, immediately that's the first place I went. And then the falling out thing, like when I listened to that, man, I was like, I'm glad I'm not the only person this has happened to.
Yeah.
You know?
At the time, like in the middle of an hour not getting along, he was so frustrating to me. Like, I guess I was starting to have my ideas and the way I thought things should be.
Oh, I could preach it to the corner,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
So my dad would teach me to do something, and he would be on 2 stools working on this thing on the counter, and before I know it, he would have both my wrenches in his hand doing it, and I'd be watching him, and I'm like, how the hell did he get to that point?
Yeah.
And it did frustrate me, and I wanted to grow.
Yeah.
Like the shutdown work that we did was because I took that on.
Right.
It ended up being the biggest thing that ever happened to our business, and the whole time it was there. I mean, it was huge. But it was a sacrifice because I had to live away from home for a year. Came home 12 times the first year I worked there.
Damn.
12 times.
Yeah.
And I was 2 hours away from home. But that's how demanding it was.
Yeah.
And but that during those times we were really, really getting along like it was a bigger deal. He put more faith in me. I'm sure when you went back, your dad put a lot more faith in you.
Yep. Yeah.
And but yeah, when I was listening to that whole thing, and I was like, man, this is just eerie because, and I didn't even have any idea that you had even flown before.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a pink elephant to most people that I know. People don't do that. It's hard to explain. That's like a pretty rewarding thing because when you can get up there in the air, you're a different person.
There's no stoplights up there.
There's no, it's just different. I don't know how to explain.
Freezer?
Yep. It was pre-made. Professional, son.
He knows what he's doing.
Why is it taking 11 shows for you to figure this out?
I don't know, but I've enjoyed this learning process, like from the editing to what cup I use, and it's been so fun in here.
It's got its moments of headache, but it has been a fun road, man.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine, is a pretty big hog farmer. He's from Kansas, but he moved down here. He has some pretty large farms. His wife is from Russia, I think, somewhere like that. She worked on the hog farm. He married her. He was like, I'm going to marry this woman, kind of thing. But anyway, they have a couple twin daughters, and he was very interested in this whole Tesla thing. And so he was like, we're going to buy one of these for our daughters, and they're going to share driving it to school, because he liked all the aspects of it. So we were all eating at a friend's house, and he was talking about it. And I'm like, Troy, I said, I just don't take you for a Tesla kind of person. He said, we drove it tonight. He's like, do you want to look at it? And I'm like, I would love to go see it. He said, well, you can drive it. So I sit in this thing, and there's no dash.
What
It's just
model
a
is it?
screen.
Does it look sporty or does it look ridiculous?
It's more of a. It's bigger throughout. Like, doesn't look like a car. It looks almost like a crossover.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad looking vehicle
I
at
got
all.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we go
Not a
sit
Model
in.
S.
That's got the
Yeah.
that's got the suicide
Got-
doors
got-
on it, doesn't it?
No,
Comes up with the size?
it's probably the Model X. Yeah, the wings.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wings.
Yeah, no, this one's open standard. It's got a pretty good sized trunk area, or hatch area.
Yeah.
But we go outside, and I'm looking in this thing, and I'm like, okay, there's nothing here, but my brain is telling me the reason there's nothing here is because this whole thing is multiplexed. It goes
Yeah.
right back to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
So I sit in it, and he turns the screen on. And any of you ever driven an old school 70s Volkswagen Beetle?
Yes.
A person 8 feet tall could drive one of those, because their floorboard goes all the way to the front of the car.
Yeah.
That's how this thing is. From when you get in, the floorboard is all the way to the other passenger seat. There's nothing in the middle. It's
Yeah.
like it was bucket seats, but like a couch in there.
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
It's very bizarre.
Yeah. No transmission hump.
No, man.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in this thing, and I'm looking, and I'm like, he's like, you want to drive it? And I said, sure. And so he's like, well, back up. And I'm like, what do you do? He said, just pull the lever backwards. So in my mind, I'm thinking, you got to crank it up first, and he's looking at me like, what the hell's wrong with you? I said, don't we have to start it? He said, it's electric. And I'm like, okay, I know that, but do you have to do something?
You're such a pilgrim.
Yeah. So I put it in reverse, and we back out, and I'm like, I'm so easy because I don't know what to expect. So we get out on the road. He said, now, I want you to nail it. He said, I don't want you to let out of it. I don't want you to think that you're going to hurt it. He said, nail it. So we get out on the road, and I do exactly what he said. You remember, I'm the adrenaline junkie.
Yeah.
I put my foot to the floor of that thing, and I don't know if I could have picked off anything off the dash. Blew my mind how fast this thing was going. Just like that.
Yeah.
So we're driving, and we're near my mom's, and we're on this bunch of curvy roads, and he's like, he mashes this button. He said, take your hand off the wheel. And I'm like, no. He's like, no, I'm serious. Take your hands off the wheel. He said, put them right beside the wheel if it makes you more comfortable. So I put it beside the wheel, and I'm holding it. We're coming to a curve, and he's like, don't touch it. And it stays between both lines and drives the curve. A few seconds later, it starts beeping. You have to touch the steering wheel again. He's like, I got a workaround for that. I'm like, what? He pulls out this sock full of beans, and he drapes it over the bottom of the steering wheel. Well, it thinks your hand's on it. He said, I've been like 80 miles and never touched the steering wheel in this thing.
Something full of beans.
Yeah, so he's thinking he's like a dollar fix for this $50,000 car.
Yeah.
So we're driving, and I'm infatuated with the technology part of it, and I'm starting to think this is what I want to get Kim to drive back and forth to work. This will be perfect. We can't take our kids in it, but this will be perfect for this. So I asked him. I said, well, like, I know you don't fill it up. I said, but what does it cost if you are buying gas to fill this up? And he said, well, it gets 320 some miles or something like that on a tank. He said, and it cost about $7 at my house for that. And I'm like, okay, I'm already sold. That's cheap enough.
Yeah.
And I said, so how do you do that? And he said, we have this big unit that sits on the wall in our garage. It's tied into Wi-Fi. Plug it in. It is downloading and uploading information all the time. He said, so if there's something wrong, it lets us know there's something wrong. I said, well, speaking of something wrong, how do you get it fixed? Because he ordered it and they delivered it to a place, but there was no shop there.
Yeah, there's no dealer.
And he said, if I have something wrong with it, he said an 18-wheeler shows up. There's a shop inside the 18-wheeler. He said they drive the car in. The guy works on it. They can't fix it in a certain amount of time. They back another one out of the back of the truck. You drive that one while they're working on your car. And I'm like, the concept of that is amazing. Like at this point in time, I'm like you. I'm almost to the point where I'm like, we're going to go home and order a car. So I said, okay, so when you are out, like when Lida's out with the girls in Wilmington, he's like, so she plugs into a Tesla charger while she's shopping. How do you pay for it? It's attached to your Tesla account. It charges it up. It costs a little more, about $9 to $9.50 to fully charge the car versus $7 at home. He said, but when we go on a trip somewhere, he said, that car routes you wherever you're going by way of the chargers based on how you're driving. He said it will not let you run out of charge as long as you follow that route.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're on a route and you detour and it sees that you're getting low, it's going to tell you need to do this to get to this certain place. He said, so it routes you. It does everything for you, you know, the whole thing. And he was talking about the safety features of the car are bar none to anything. I used to think that Subaru had it going on. Elon's got it going on. Yeah. It is great, crazy. I don't know about the truck because I hadn't really looked as much about the truck, but like with the car, every time you brake, it's charging the batteries. Mm-hmm. It amazed me. The truck is kind of crazy looking, but Troy was like, he said, I'm ordering a truck for when they come out for the farm. He said, I'm going to use it on the farm. He said, in the minute they come out with United States tractor trailers, he said, I'll own one of those too for the farm. And they're already doing electric trucks overseas. And if you read any of the stuff about that, dude, that's amazing. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, the truck looks funny for now. I mean,
it looks funny for now, and you know what? When the new Dodge came out back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and they had that hood that was like this, and everybody thought, oh, my God, it's not square, that's futuristic. That ain't nothing.
Yeah.
To me, that truck looks funny now.
Yeah.
You know?
It looks funny for,
It looks funny until when that truck comes out and they're actually on the road, when you have seen 4 or 5 of them on the interstate, they won't look funny anymore.
Like, cool.
No, because by that time, everything's doing that. Everything's going that whole route, you know?
Yeah, the guy upstairs, they've got one, but I think they have the Model S have a 4-door. Theirs is very sporty looking.
Theirs is a Model 3.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it's super sweet. I've contemplated it. It makes sense for somebody like me who's
Absolutely.
got an hour commute, but I don't have Wi-Fi.
At home.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
And that's
Elon's got a fix for that coming too.
Yeah, internet for everybody. Satellite-based internet.
Starlink.
Yep.
Yeah, satellite-based internet.
Yeah.
That dude's on top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, people can say what they want about him, but he's not a dumbass. He is smart. And he is smart on the things that matter.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, he is smart on the things that people, I won't say look down their nose at him, but they look at him like you're an idiot. He's not an idiot.
You know what I like the best about Elon Musk is history books later, looking back on this era of time, there's going to be a bunch of bullshit in politics and everything else. And thank God there's going to be Elon Musk that hopefully will take that view and they can just talk about what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get rid of all that stuff.
Yeah. Let's don't write down all that other bullshit. Jesus.
On that same topic, we're talking about a lot of futuristic stuff. Where do you see the future of our industry going?
The same way.
Two-part question. Where do you see our industry going, and then where do you fit into that? Like, where does the fire truck maintenance guy fit into that?
I have thought about that a lot.
I'm sure you have.
Honestly, probably by the time that happens, if it happens like they would want it to happen, where you don't really have to work on anything kind of thing, I'll be out of it. But here's the thing you have to think about. You'll always need a plumber at your house. The rest of your life, you're going to have a plumber or do it yourself. You're going to have an electrician, and you're going to have somebody work on your car. So the fire truck industry We'll come to that point, but not as fast as the automotive industry will. But just like I told you before, I think there'll be a day where you get in the truck and you hit a button and it takes you to where you are going. And while you're riding, it's getting things ready and telling you what your plan of attack is. Like, I could totally see you having an aerial photo of the house that you are going to burning, and it would be live satellite feed of some sort, and you're sizing it up from riding in the officer's seat of the
That's
truck.
already a thing with drones.
It is.
Now. That's already.
But it'll be something that's not even drone based. It will just be there.
Yeah, satellite image.
Yeah, and it'll be available to you. You'll probably have to buy into it, just like you have to buy into everything else. But you're going to buy into it because the people that run your show are going to think, and they'll know that that's a good thing, and they'll buy into it. Definitely see it go in that direction. As far as me, I don't think it'll phase me out. But I think what it will do is the cost of me doing business and the tools I have to have skyrocketed. From when I first started, you had to have a pretty illicit array of hand tools in a box.
A 1/2 inch and a 9/16. You were good.
And a 10 millimeter.
And you were good.
Yeah. To now, having a laptop with $10,000 worth of software on it to be able to go to work on your truck. And that's that's happening right now. And that 10 grand lasts you about a year. and then you buy into it again. Because everything changes. The engines they make today, there's changes to them later on down the road. Within a year. New software, new way of doing things. The cool part about that is parameters in stuff can be changed very easily now with your computer. Your pickup, you can put a programmer on that thing and immediately have 100 horsepower at your fingertips.
Yep.
When I first started doing this, there were electronic engines, but most of the older engines, to get more horsepower, you had to do a lot of work internally. You don't have to do that anymore. So fixing things and problems are going to be hooked the computer to it, and the computer fixes that problem for you because it rewrites a program or software or something like that. I can very much see that happening because it's happening now. But some person is still going to have to do, like tires, brakes, change the oil. If it's electric, there won't be that, but you still have to do that.
Ball valves.
Yep. That's not going to change.
Yeah, there's no Bluetooth
No.
charging. Yeah.
No.
I'm surprised actually that some kind of technology hasn't come out to kind of start the progression of replacing that system, because that's a always reoccurring problem in the fire service industry is ball valves. I'm just super surprised that hasn't.
Well, it's
something hasn't tried to come along.
And ball valves in general have not changed that much over the years. The
Poly and
concept is
stainless.
but the concept of how it works is exactly the same. They change materials, they try to use stuff, but nothing's going to combat what they go through. And I was thinking about that too. Like, what would change that? What would take that ball valve out of the equation? We'll probably never see
individual pumps. If we did go like the Tesla route with electric motors, then you can have a motor per pump, and that would be the only way to get around ball valves.
And it's definitely doable, because if you go the electric route, then you have an electric motor that drives each little pump on each side. I never thought of it that way. The only thing I thought of was kind of crazy, but some sort of electromagnetic thing that just mashed a button and it slid over a hole and it blocked water off, and you just mashed it again or the other way and it slid away from it. And you could do that and it wouldn't really touch anything. It would be very, very, very small tolerance between.
Yeah, but I guess there's still the pressure of water pushing against surface. You're still going to have friction. You're still going to have wear. It would have to be some kind of wild, I don't know, surface. Almost like a ball of Jell-O that, just constantly moved and never scratched and was self-healing. And
let me tell you, somebody's already thinking about that.
I'm sure they are. I can't wait. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm ready. I'm excited for that. I want to, It's exciting.
I just copyrighted my individual electric motor thing, though. So just for anybody listening. Yeah.
So I can't use it now? I can't go back
We can
and
work
read.
out a
Yeah,
deal.
yeah.
Yeah, we can work out a deal.
We could do this every day for fun if we come up with that.
Yeah,
You know?
no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
But I like technology. Don't get me wrong. I'm not putting down like the SAM system. I'm not by any means putting it away. It's like anybody else. If you take the newest firefighter that you have that is working for the county right now, he will be so much more in tune to technology than
Hoffman.
You can say that. You can say that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what I mean,
sure.
I was even thinking more along the lines of your most seasoned person that's not in a administrative position. That's just the way
It's the times.
That's the times to what we
Right.
live in. And I'm not scared of the technology. There will probably come a day where it'll be harder for me to understand it. Just like my grandparents couldn't set the clock on their VCR. That's a simple thing for a 5-year-old. That's going to happen. That's going to come. And I look forward to most of it, but some of it's aggravating.
Yeah, it excites me, the whole progression of where our service is taking us.
Absolutely.
Even from the training side, you hear me, I dog a lot of the virtual training that we do. But to me, it just removes the hands-on portion of it. That's the part that terrifies me when you start removing the human aspect of it, because that's what I hold dear to my heart. You know, I'm a get my hands, bust my knuckles kind of guy, and that's the part that terrifies me when you start removing the human aspect of being able to operate something and understand how something works in order to make you the most proficient at your job. Because in our industry, being proficient at your job is the ability to further someone's life or not. So that's the part that terrifies me, is the removal of that, to where you can't proficiently do your job the same.
Right,
Maybe I don't know if technology will kind of shift that to where that part just doesn't matter. It's going to happen anyway. But that's the part that's terrifying to me. It's exciting nonetheless. I geek out on the pump stuff the same way I did with the egg, relief valves, as I do with pressure governors and everything else. I geek out the same. But the part, like I said, just the part that terrifies me is the removal of the kind of the human interaction between the man and the machine in order to get the end outcome.
It does me too, and that's why that's the problem I have with the way technology is moving forward to it. But it's like that with everything. It's not just the fire service. You see it everywhere. You're letting something that doesn't make mistakes think for you. In most aspects, that's good. But if that's something that doesn't make mistakes, makes a mistake or quits working, you're not going to be able to understand what to do to fix that problem because you have been relying on it so long. So I tell people all the time, a person that knows how to do somewhat of their work on their own fire truck and understand how the pump and the relief valve and that kind of thing works, they're 10,000 times better pump operator. Way better.
I guess that's a much better way of putting it, is the ability to put your confidence in something versus having confidence. Putting your confidence in this button that I'm pushing, that it's going to end up doing what I want, versus knowing if I pull this handle, I know the end result. So confidence in something versus confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
I
give you
a better way of putting it.
A balance kind of thing to think about. So we'll do relief valve versus pressure governor. So you understand how a relief valve works based on the fact that you've pumped a truck with a relief valve. It just moves the water to a different place, takes it away from your pump pressure. A pressure governor just changes the idle speed of your truck, okay? If a pressure governor system fails while you're using it and your truck falls to no pressure, depending on the system that you have, you could possibly be in the situation where the truck wouldn't only pump an idle, and that's it. If a relief valve system does the same thing, in about 30 seconds, I can make that relief valve not even in the picture anymore. Even if it tears up, it's gone.
Yeah.
So I tell people you need to teach your people that have relief valves how to do that in case something happens. The other system was put into place because all the trucks now are electronic. So there was no way to adjust throttles. It made it easier to plug and play, and it was made to be safer for you to have a relief valve system because it idled the truck up and down, where the old relief valve system versus pressure governor, the truck still was running just as high as you had it, and the pressure was being offset somewhere else.
Yeah, it was just dumping it.
It was just dumping it. Done to begin with maybe because, I heard people say something about trucks running away. I've never seen that in 17 years. Never seen a truck run away.
I've never either.
No. I've heard of it, but it's a pretty rare thing. But what it really did is that changing that system around made it very simple for the manufacturer to be able to plumb that. I'm not a fan of a pressure governor. You probably can tell it. I don't. You're putting your faith in a computer to save a person's life, and there's no alternate way around it. But there is with this other system. And that system will be, you can still buy them. We got a brand new or a pretty new 05 truck in Rose Hill. We ordered it with a relief valve because that's what we trusted.
Mm-hmm.
There'll probably come a day where you can't get that. And pressure governors are better now than they were when they first came out. They were temperamental. But what's the biggest thing? What's one thing on every fire truck that you would think or is bad for electronics?
Water.
And what's your fire truck full of?
Yeah.
So it's everywhere. And we see that problem more than anything. Somebody asked me one time, they said, well, what do you do mostly on fire trucks? I said, electronic stuff. That's probably 90% of our job as fire truck mechanics is electronic stuff. Something not working because it's electronic. There's more of it on there, but the engine side of things, like the mechanical part of the engine, transmissions, driveline, that's a pretty rare occurrence that there's something wrong.
Yeah. There's another enemy also. There's water everywhere, but vibration too.
Vibration.
Yeah.
And they've done a lot better job of combating this now than they did at the beginning, but you have static electricity when you drive from stuff that was killing a lot of things, and electronics manufacturers have come out with ways to work around that where it doesn't hurt them. Used to, they would tell you that you couldn't take your phone apart because static from your hand could burn the circuit board up. Well, that's not a big a deal anymore as it used to be. Same way with fire trucks. But you're right. Vibration is bad, and water's bad, and that's what we see the most of. It's a big deal. That and regen systems.
Yeah.
Jesus.
If you ask anybody in the fire service today what their biggest pet peeve is like, we're all the time having problems with a regen system. We're all the time having problems with a regen system. And I've said this for several years. I wish there was a way that the fire truck industry could get that away, could do without that. For many years, you could operate a bulldozer for 8 hours a day with no emission system on it, but a man couldn't drive a fire truck 15 minutes out of the entire day without having to have it. The difference is, and the reason that you have so many problems with your regen system is you don't drive it enough.
Yeah, it's the frequency.
The frequency of it. So a regen system on a big truck that's hauling freight every day, that truck regens, he never knows it. It's doing its thing. You get in it, and you crank it up and immediately floor it, and you drive 5 miles down the road, and then, there's nothing to it, and you turn around and you come out to the station and you cut it off. It's never going to regen.
Yeah.
And so when that happens and it keeps trying, or it needs to, but it can't do it, then somebody like me has to come in and force that to happen. And I really think that the fire truck companies themselves should find a workaround to that where, get a pass, so to speak, to not have to have it on a fire engine, because it's probably costed the fire service the most money of any repair on any fire truck, I would say in the last 10 years has been the regen DPF system.
And that's the taxpayer paying that bill.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not coming out of my pocket.
No, I still got to check.
Yeah.
No. And it's been a good thing for people in my world, but I have to look at it as a reoccurring problem that shouldn't be there. It's a waste.
Yeah.
It's a waste. It costs me money. If I pay taxes, it costs you money.
Yep.
But there should be another way around it. There's probably one fire truck to every 50 bulldozers there are. Or,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
why are we being picked on, so to speak, or not really picked on? You can't help it. And I'll tell you why they do it. So the manufacturer of the engine makes the same engine for our fire truck as does for the over-the-road truck.
Yeah.
So if they're making 500 over-the-road trucks a day, engines for that truck a day, they're not going to change their line for the one engine they make for a fire truck.
Yeah.
But there should be someone out there that can take that off and fix that problem. And they haven't done it. You know, you think about it that way, it's a big problem.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to get better, but I haven't seen it getting better. So now what we do is we tell people once a week, drive it 30 or 40 miles.
See, I mean, here in New Hanover County, that's a big issue. Somewhere to get up 30, 40 miles at highway speed.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have to go to my house and turn around and come back.
Yeah.
I mean, that's wild.
Or make the loop on 140 a couple times. That's your only option.
Well, I mean, then you're down in a first out engine and politics. But that's the number one problem with the newest piece of apparatus we have in the county.
Yeah,
right now.
absolutely.
Is that regen problem.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Makes total sense.
A little while ago, you said something about we're putting faith in this thing that doesn't make mistakes. You know, the electronics of it. There's got to be some kind of line that we'll end up getting to. They try to train everybody to get emotion out of a decision, but in this industry, when you're showing up on scene and there's a house on fire and a rescue that needs to be made, it's not void of emotion. Like, that's how you're making that decision. Do I risk my crew to make this grab?
Absolutely.
Or do I not? Like, electronics can't make that. So
They never will.
yeah, we'll always be needed in that aspect, but our tools may end up being electronic.
We're only as good as our tools.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
It's
Strange
coming.
times, but
Yeah,
I mean, it's
it is.
exciting. But
Yeah.
It is. I'm not against it. I think we have to have it to evolve. If we were still doing things like our grandfathers did, we would still be doing things like our grandfathers did. You know,
Yeah.
we wouldn't evolve farther and I don't want to say farther, but it wouldn't be the same thing. You have to move forward. But life safety has to play a role in how far forward you move.
Yeah.
I'm not the person that's going to change that, you know. And the guys that work with me, and besides, man, Stanley and I have had this conversation thousands of times over working, over sitting somewhere drinking a beer, over going on a trip together, over doing whatever. Is the problems with things like this happening and well, just the issue with what it's doing and the decisions that you're relying on stuff like that to make for you and taking that human aspect out.
Yeah. We can't take it all the way out.
No, you can't take it all the way out. And you still have to be, even with the technology, you still have to be responsible for turning that piece of equipment on and starting to at least tell it what to do.
Right.
But it's the failure point of it that worries me the most. You could be running the truck and have a heart attack and fall out. But there's somebody else that's there that can come back and do that. If the computer quits, I don't really think you're going to get one that has a secondary,
Right.
redundant system beside it that will take over. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It also, I think it makes people complacent.
without a doubt.
You start, it's you don't have to monitor it anymore. So you can be up there, searching on your phone while it's doing its thing, and you have become out of the whole picture of what's happening. And you can't do that. You can do it in some places, but you can't do it in the fire service. you have to have the human interaction. I don't think that should ever change.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%.
The other thing is the truck is a little bit different, but we'll use the truck. So we're relying on you to make a decision, and in a split second change that decision if something else happens.
Right.
Well, that truck can change it based on what you tell it, but how do you tell that truck every possible scenario that could come up? You cannot do that.
Yeah.
You cannot do that. That's impossible. That's what I don't want to see, because I enjoy the human interaction with working on it. I enjoy the human interaction with pumping a truck. That is my thing. I'm the most comfortable behind those levers because I understand how it works and I know how to do it. Way more comfortable than any other thing on the fireground. That's just a thing, you know. But I really get it. And when it changes to something like that, it would probably make me not want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
It won't be the same.
Yep. That's a whole aspect of it too. Like if you take away the draw for the people that are inclined to want to go be a fireman or be a EMS worker or anything, you know, like if you take away that draw, where are they going to come from? Or, you know, you can't build them in a factory.
There'll be computer programmers,
Yeah.
I guess, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it would take the same person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going for that, I mean,
Yeah. I just thought about earlier. You said you went through a period where you were spending money like it was like going out of style.
Oh, yeah.
I suffered the same thing for a minute, and I remember thinking, like, life is short. I'm just gonna buy this thing, or just gonna buy that, or whatever. Like I did my little justification for it. You said motorcycles. You had one. My favorite. I had a GSXR 1000.
Yeah, I never went that route. I was the Harley chopper kind of person, never the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a.
I didn't like riding rice.
Yeah. In 2003, the GSXR 1000 was the fastest production bike.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, that joker, man. Me and this guy Snake, Jeremy.
You say his name was Snake?
Snake, yeah. Jeremy Scholes. Shout out.
Are you
Jeremy
sure you
Scholes.
weren't riding a Harley?
Yeah,
Snake.
Yeah. Me and Snake were on Sudbury Road. We were heading toward Poplar Grove Plantation, and we go around the one bend in Sudbury.
Yeah.
As soon as we come out of it, we both get up on the back wheel, and we're going through a couple of houses there, a little creek, and then you come up by the concrete plant. Well, by the concrete plant, we're running 165, and he puts the wheel down, and the wind blew me over. I was on the right side. It blew me over toward the yellow line. So I got squared back up, and when I put the wheel down, when we picked the front wheel up, we were going like 45 miles per hour. So the wheel speed's nowhere near 165. Right. So it slides for like 8 feet, and then I go into a tank slapper. And for 0.2 of a mile, bro, a tank slapper is no joke. Like that's bad news. And it's going back and forth, and I go from white line to white line, back and forth for 0.2 of a mile. Jeremy Snake's behind me, and he said all he could do was scream in his helmet. Like he was just so scared that I was going to hit the ground and go to pieces, you know. So after that 0.2 of a mile, I just coasted all the way up to that church parking lot. And, you know, these modern bikes, it's the clutch is a hydraulic, you know, like a brake master cylinder. And then the front brake, nothing worked because the shaking was so violent that it had the fluid up, I guess, and got air in
aerated it.
Yeah. And so I'm like pumping, trying to get them to come back online. Man, what a sketchy situation. Yeah.
So I would have immediately gone and sat on the steps of that church.
Yeah.
And had a little talk.
I stopped in the right spot.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Thank God you had Snake with you.
Yeah. That was September 20th, 2003.
Did you have matching tattoos?
Sure it wasn't 1986?
I'm a blank canvas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
What bike did you get?
So so I rode dirt bikes like my entire childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And when it came time to where I could afford to buy something streetwise, I bought a custom chopper from a guy in Kalispell, Montana. Sight unseen, only pictures. Paid for it. Had haulbikes.com pick it up and bring it to me. It took a month for them to pick it up and get it to me. Hardtail, about 9.5 feet long. Had a 300 back tire. Yeah, had a 300 back tire on the back. I absolutely loved that motorcycle. It was a hell to ride. You didn't want to ride it very long places, but when you stopped somewhere, everybody and their grandma was asking you questions about this motorcycle.
Yeah,
you know?
beautiful.
So I kept that. I can't remember exactly how long, and then I really wanted something different. So I bought a 49 Harley Hydroglide, restored it. I still have it now.
Nice.
Rode right much. My wife Kim rode with me. She really enjoyed it. We rode to the mountains, rode different places. And I enjoyed the motorcycle aspect of getting home from work before I was married again. Like I'd get home from work and I could get on it, and for 2 hours riding, I could not hear my phone ring,
Yeah.
To riding with people and a bunch of my friends, and that part was really fun. And then I got to where, we got a bunch of children, so I got to where after
Hard to put 6 kids on a bike.
well, it is, and
Tough.
it's just you're so busy with everything that they're doing. It's hard to find time to ride it. And I didn't ride it very much. And then when Michael Stanley got killed, I kind of went home one day and was talking to Kim, and I said, I think I'm done. And she's like, what do you mean? And I said, I think I'm done riding. And she said, are you going to sell it? And I'm like, no, not now. Like I want to look at it. But I've always known that there's a probability that you could get in a wreck, and a wreck on a motorcycle could be bad. But I'm not worried about me. I was always worried about everybody else. But then I got to thinking about his situation and how he left his wife and kids, and I was like, it's not worth it. Not for fun. It's not worth it. And I leave all of them because somebody made a stupid mistake, or, I'd put myself there. And I know you can't always think that way. Everything you do is dangerous. But
Sure,
if that's one thing I can take out of that danger part, that's what I'm going to do. So I parked it. Haven't been on it since. Like, the feeling is always there. It's coming to be summertime. I'm seeing chicken and wheel riding, and I'm like, man, this sucks. But I enjoyed it. What I enjoyed the most out of that is building the motorcycle.
Yeah.
Putting it together, doing my thing. I would love to do that.
Sounds to me like you need to get another resto project up.
Yeah, it would be fun. I don't have as much time as I did then.
Well, you were talking about your kids. Do any of your kids share the same passion for turning wrenches, that kind of thing?
Two of them.
Okay, well, it could
Two
be a
of
possible
them
project.
probably
Yeah.
do. One of them, I'm not sure exactly what he wants to do. I mean, he's 14.
Who knows?
Who knows? But yeah, two of them are about the only two that really work with their hands. The rest of them, I'd say the rest of them, they're young. I don't really know.
Sure.
My oldest one probably going to be a lawyer. Like he's definitely argumentative.
I got one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. I hope so. Somebody has to do this when I'm gone. I don't want it to stop. It's a good thing. It's a good business to be in.
Could be a segue.
It could be. Yeah.
Get another old bike to restore.
Yeah. Maybe that'll
Work on it
out.
with your kids.
Maybe. I'd love to do that, though. I enjoyed that part of it. I've never taken any motorcycle I have owned since I've been an adult to a place to have it repaired. I've always found out how to do it by myself because I enjoyed that part. So when I did the resto on this one, I immediately knew how to do it because I had to do it to start with.
Yeah.
So anything that's wrong with it, I could tell you by listening to it run. Same way with a fire truck. Like you said before, you hear that, you know. But
Yeah, a little cavitation or whatever.
It's,
Yeah.
like those old dudes that can listen to a old school muscle car run and go tweak the carburetor just a hair, and
Yeah,
it's like
a little rich, a little
dude,
lean.
it's like a different vehicle. I had a CJ7.
Yeah.
I took it to a guy. I took it to a guy who was known for tuning carburetors. It just had
was it here in Wilmington?
No.
Okay.
It was up there where I'm from. But, he was one of those guys that had an old school farmer. He's got an old storage building. You open it up, and it's years of dust on all these look like Gone in 60 Seconds cars. It's like, is this real?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, is this real? But, I come bebopping up there on my CJ7, and I just sit there and let it run for a minute, and I pop the hood, all that good stuff. And he's like, okay, turn this screw, a quarter turn, clockwise this way, and I'll do that. And then it's like, okay, now take this one and turn it half a turn counterclockwise this way. And you do all that, and you can hear this machine starting to sound different. And when I drove that thing home, it was like driving a Tesla.
Night and day.
It was, it was like a totally different vehicle. But I mean, it was nothing. It was all from his ears. And it was just that human connection and human interaction that we talk about, the man and machine.
That's how Stanley is about listening to a diesel engine. I mean, his dad drove a truck, so he rode in that truck when he was a kid, time and time again. And he hears things that I don't hear. I learn a lot from his knowledge of the engine side of it. And I guess I'm getting that way because I'm around it more. I told somebody one time, it was kind of funny. I'm like, I've driven more fire trucks than most any fireman anywhere, and pumped more fire trucks because of the business that I'm in.
Sure.
Right.
And every different kind. So when it comes to brands and engines and pumps and different things like that, by working on it, you know which ones give you the least amount of problems. You know which ones are better at this or better at this, or that's pretty cool. I enjoy that part.
Yeah.
What kid doesn't like driving a fire truck?
Yeah, no kidding.
No doubt.
You can do it every day.
Yeah. You mentioned Michael Stanley. About, I guess, a month or 6 weeks before he passed, I got in a tight spot, and it was a last-minute thing. I reached out to the old 18 group and a few friends, and Ray Martin and Michael Stanley showed up. And at the time, everybody's heard my story. I don't want to retell the whole thing, but Keenan had been sick, and we needed to do some moving, and then we needed to put some more floor down in this house that we had moved the kids and stuff into. And Stanley came over just to help move, and then he heard me talking about this need, and he was in. Like,
he was a floor guy. I mean,
yeah. And more than that, he was just a stand-up.
Yeah,
one of the best among us. Like, such a great guy. What a tragedy to lose.
I know.
One of those guys.
I only know him from here, and I only met him a few times. I really didn't really know Michael, but I was telling Nick after he called and told me what happened. I'm like, he was one of the nicest people I ever met.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
just
sure.
I relieved him that morning, and he was excited to be on that motorcycle that day.
Yeah,
with his buddy coming in to town. Yeah,
that's
tough.
He looked entirely different off duty. Yeah, when he came over to help move, he was wearing these white skate shoes.
Yeah.
And,
oh, really?
Yeah.
I only can picture him off duty like in cowboy boots.
Yeah. No. He was kind of thugged out.
Yeah,
it was really funny.
He came to one of our burns, and he was in, for lack of better terms, he was in civvy clothes or street clothes or whatever. But I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, almost totally different.
Yeah. The what you saw, you thought sure, because he had all the tattoos and stuff. You thought he was going to be this hard ass, but man, nicest guy ever.
People I met, I do a lot of work in Columbus County, and people that I know from there that knew him from Whiteville Fire Department and different stuff, tell you the same things that people here did. Just a super, super nice guy. It's bad to lose anybody, but especially somebody that is a good for the world kind of person,
Yeah.
So a week or two before then, I come in because I was doing that relief, or I was filling in that captain spot for a little bit, and I walk in. It was 6:30 in the morning. Everything's black, and at the Invista station, and he comes sleepily walking out of the bunk room. And he's like, "Hey, Captain King." I was like, "Hey, Michael." He's like, "You like elephants?" I guess. Well, he didn't have them on, but apparently he had a pair of thong elephant underwear where the trunk apparently was full functioning.
Yeah.
And I guess he had worn it the day before with the crew. He was strutting around.
Oh my god.
With his trunk going to and fro.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's so awesome. That was the first time I've ever heard him cut up like that. I was like,
oh, that's great. His captain, Timmy Carp, gifted us some bourbon. If you guys are down, let's throw a drink down right now
Right
for
now.
Yep,
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
I can stand that better than I can something in my ear, though.
Jefferson's.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yep, TK 2000.
1,000.
TK 1000. Here
Oh,
you go.
TK
Just a little
1000.
splash for everybody, right?
I like O'Cart, man. He is cool. Like, he is cool.
He's a good dude. I remember almost beating him to death with a loaf of bread.
A loaf of bread?
Yeah. He's got no, it
TK,
wasn't.
appreciate you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're here.
Yeah, to Michael Stanley.
Yeah.
Yep. Cheers, mates.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Timmy did. He
That's
rode.
pretty good there.
Yeah. That Jefferson's is on point.
He rode backstep on the engine when the truck first got there. Buckner was our officer, and buddy, let me tell you, when he came in as a rookie, he got all of it. He got the entire experience. I'm not going to say it's attributed to make him the upstanding officer that he is now, but it did. He got the full man. You talk about bottom of the barrel. Buckner put him in a trash can, in the kitchen trash can, and rolled him around in the hallways, like upside down, head first in the trash can. He got beat with a loaf of bread. He became
We might want to edit this.
he got no, you don't. He became the receiving end of a giant sliced cheese fight where it was everybody was throwing sliced cheese at each other, but then it just became everybody throwing sliced cheese at Timmy. He'll appreciate all this, but yeah, what a good dude.
Yeah. The best. Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing about this. Like, the industry that you're in and all the people that you work with, it's the same thing that I do. So I get the interaction, not the same way, but with the same people. So you don't meet people who are not nice in what I do either. I mean, well, first of all, they think you're, Miracle Jesus because you come and fix what they have that's broken. So automatically they like you. But, even being a fireman before I started doing this kind of work and then still, doing it now, this is the best people to work with, by far. The best industry to be in. People don't understand if they don't have anything to do with it. That's why I like going to work every day. It's fun. It's not like a job because even when I'm working on your guys' stuff, I mean, I'm interacting and I feel like I'm hanging out with you. Like I live at the station too, even though I don't live at the station too.
Right.
It's what makes it fulfills that I didn't become a career guy type thing, but I did in my own kind of way, and Stanley kind of feels that way, I'm sure. Brian probably feels like that. Jeffrey definitely, which he's kind of doing a little bit of both
yeah.
of it,
Yeah.
Jeffrey feels the same way.
It's actually like you're a servant's servant.
Yeah.
It's pretty honorable position. We
Yeah.
appreciate it.
There ain't
Like
no doubt
you
about
said,
that.
we look at you like you're healing our truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another cog in the machine, keeping the machine running.
That's honestly the best, the most rewarding part of it. I mean, everybody has to have money to live. I could make money doing anything else, but you're helping out in a different. It's hard to explain. What you said is probably the best deal, but yeah, it's I kind of do feel like a servant. Yeah, I don't really know other way to explain it.
Say the public relies on you to get us there,
Yeah.
keep us going.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
little mini hero.
You're not a little mini hero in my eyes.
Yeah. Man, that Jefferson's really is good
It
stuff.
is. It's going down
Super smooth.
not great smooth.
Not for you?
No, too good. That's
Oh,
what
I
I'm
got
saying.
you.
Like
Yeah.
dangerously
So good.
smooth.
Yes,
Yeah.
dangerously
Let's go
smooth.
past the lips.
Yeah. Pro tip. Oh man,
Funny, yep. TK's a good guy.
for sure. Chris, if you need any extra business, where can people find you?
So I don't advertise.
I know you don't.
I don't have a web page.
They can get up through me.
Yeah.
All right.
If you need if you need me to do something, you can contact my bookies, Matt Hoffman.
Yeah.
You can contact Steve Hunt, or you can contact Jeremy King. No, yeah, ask somebody. I mean, that's pretty much it. Yeah, never had anybody asked me that before. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've never known your company to have any kind of social media presence or anything like that. I've never seen a sign or a business card or anything. That's super cool, though.
We started off with word of mouth, and that's kind of how it's been. You know, that's been a big deal for me. If you like what we're doing, you'll call us and you'll tell other people. If you don't, maybe you won't. And the most advertisement we've ever had is a hat and a T-shirt. I don't even give out business cards.
And now Primary Complete.
Yeah, and now Primary Complete. I don't know. Yeah, that works the best. Word of mouth.
Cool. Well, we've enjoyed having you for sure.
Oh, it's been great being here.
Pleasure.
It's been fun. Yeah, absolutely.
I've got a bunch more questions to ask you, and we'll do that on another episode for sure.
Sure. I'll come back
Love to have
anytime.
you back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Man, thanks for coming.
All right,
Thanks
brother.
for having me. See y'all.